Appamada and its programs are supported by your generosity, and your generosity and support makes such a difference. You can find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org. Thank you.
Okay, so my request before, if you're just joining us, was that you speak the name and tell the information that you can share about someone from the website called Those We Have Lost at the New York Times. To speak the name of someone who has passed away from COVID-19 in the last year. And be willing to do that within about a minute, and then I will call on the next person. I'm going to call on people individually, alphabetically by last name from the list of participants here. So again, it'll be rough, but I hope you'll bear with me. I'm going to ring the bell, and we'll start with I'm going to light some incense. And we'll start from there, okay? Prepare for service. Becky, I'm not sure if you heard the instructions before, but if you did, okay, good, thank you. I'm going to strike the bell, and then I'll be watching a timer, and I give you a minute. So if you would go first. I'm sorry, I'm going by alphabetical of first name. So that's the way it's lined up here. So Becky, if you would.
Oh, you can't hear me? I don't know anybody personally who died of COVID or know anyone directly that knew someone. So I used the site, and the person I found is a woman named Diane Fillmore, and she was 59 years old. She, like in 1987, her life was floundering, and she decided that going into the military was a way that she might give her life some direction. And while she was sitting there in the beginning of it all, she was thinking about the fact that she'd had to choose to leave her infant baby at home with her mother in Ohio to do this. And she started crying, wondering if she'd done the wrong thing. And the fella next to her said, "It's going to be okay. Someday I'm going to marry you." And 5 years later, they were married and they had 3 children. She had 30 years in the military, and then in her 50s started a new career. So, and she was a woman of color with challenges.
Thank you.
Diane Fillmore.
Thank you. Cathy King.
Thank you for the opportunity, Joel. I lost a friend of 55 years in October, but yesterday we had a memorial for a woman named Diane Hobbs. And I was called to active duty again during Desert Storm. And I had to spend a lot of time just thinking about what would happen to my daughters because my husband was already on active duty. And I decided that they would go to my cousin's family, and his wife is Diane. And they took our daughters in, and they had 2 daughters. And Diane was a teacher almost all of her life in the Atlanta area. And it was a beautiful, beautiful service yesterday morning. And people commented about how joyful she was. And one of her favorite songs was James Taylor's Shower the People. And sometimes they would walk into her home and she would be singing it while she was working around the house. And she was just a dear woman.
Claudine.
Thank you. I was not really prepared. Thanks to Nancy, who welcomed me with what was going on. I had time to think for 1 or 2 minutes, and then I know nobody who died from the virus. I'm very thankful for that. But as I had time to find the names of 3 important politicians in France and 2 in Switzerland. One was Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, who was the president of France, and he was 94, I think. And 2 politicians in Switzerland, René Felbert, who was a minister, an important man, and another one who was Flavio Cotti, who wanted to be minister but didn't succeed. But all these men were really contributing to their countries. And they were names that I often heard at the radio, for instance. So all my life, these names have been more or less present. And suddenly I became aware of they passed away. And I want to thank them for the work they did for their countries, and to thank you for the opportunity.
Connie.
I really enjoyed that website. I did not know that existed, and it seems like a good place. So my person is Betty Jean Gibbons Randolph Byers. She was my mother-in-law. I don't really know that she died from COVID, but she died last year in a memory care unit in Fredericksburg. She lost her son, my husband, 17 years ago, and her daughter long before that, because she disowned her. She died all alone. She was a very difficult person. And she did many good things in this world in her own way. So this is a great opportunity to honor her because she had no service. That was up to me and I couldn't figure out how to do it and I didn't know who to invite. So this is nice. Thank you.
Darcy?
So I would like to mention a friend of my husband's and a friend of mine too, who died. I think we found out Christmas Eve of COVID. His name is Wilbur Wilson, and they shared vegetables and help with canning and things like that. And bringing up for me that I still haven't found out what has happened to his wife. And I need to do that. She had medical conditions and I know she couldn't live alone, and I haven't been able to track down where she is. And I've wanted to do that, but not taken the third and fourth step to figure it out. And I really feel for those who are, so many that are left behind. So, thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Effie, did you hear the instructions or do you feel like you can participate?
Yes. Person I chose is Deborah Ivy, and in her mid-50s, she cashed out some retirement and started a barbecue restaurant called George's Happy Hog Barbecue. And very often when you walked into her restaurant, you would hear her say, "Hey, baby, hey, sweetie, hey, darling." And everyone loved her smiling face. And everyone who came to her restaurant was well taken care of. Thank you.
Ellen Hippard?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that no one I know has died of COVID, but I have had several cousins and several friends who have survived COVID. But I went on the website and found somebody whose surname had the same initial as me, the first one I came across, and that was Antoine Hodge, 38. He was an opera singer. Mr. Hodge, a bass baritone, was recently a chorus member in Porgy and Bess at the Metropolitan Opera. He died of COVID-19. He tried out for nearly every role available to him. Not one was too obscure. He saw the production as a milestone in his career. He ultimately won a solo in the scene referred to as "Oh, Dr. Jesus." He was a hardworking singer who performed with opera companies across the country. That's Antoine Hodge.
Jess?
So I haven't known anyone directly who has died from COVID. So I went on the website and there was so Helen Atuk was 20 years old and was a student at University of North Texas in Arlington, and had a chronic condition of lupus. She was attending classes there in person, and she, woman of color, and she, her mother, she was raised by a single mother, and her mother said that she blamed herself for attending classes in person. She was upset about contracting COVID, and then a month later she died. She wanted to be a pediatrician, and she was going to college to get to go on that path.
Joan Harman?
I'm going to talk about my neighbor's sister, Marion Haddon. She was 83 when she died, which was February 1st. She had had the vaccine, and the only thing they can figure out is she contracted COVID before she got the vaccine. She was born in Austin, born and raised. Their family had Maxi Glass, which was a very good business in town. She went to UT and graduated, and was a duplicate bridge player, and in one of the tournaments met her husband, who was in the service, and they traveled in many exotic places, and everyone loved going, that friends and family, to visit them, and she entertained them well in these places. And when she was in Hawaii, she started playing golf, taking up golf, and so in her retirement she played a lot of bridge and golf. Her sister, my dear neighbor, said she was always a go-getter, and everyone had to just run like crazy just to catch up to her. This is Marion Haddon.
I'll go next. And the person I want to remember, I've mentioned before, it's my oldest sister, Trudy Barna Lloyd, who did not die of COVID, but she died denying COVID, denying that it was a real pandemic, which is a source of great pain to me. And there was a lot of pain in our relationship that I still feel, that I was cut off from her, and part of that being cut off was fighting about issues like, that had been turned into politics. She was a woman of great character. She was divorced in the early 60s, and it had a big impact on me that she could not get a credit card in her own name, that she could not get a loan in her own name. And it was, many years later that she was given, that society came around to recognizing how stupid that was for her and other women. And that had a big effect on me. It had a big effect on me that my parents could not attend her second wedding to her husband, who has survived her, John Barna Lloyd, who was also extremely politically conservative, but a very, very dear person. But my parents, because of their strong Catholic faith, could not attend the wedding because Trudy was divorced. And that had a lot to do with me deciding I didn't want anything else to do with the Catholic Church. I remember Trudy with affection and awe at her spirit and a lot of pain. Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Irving McPhail, and he was a college president at the college I was at for a few years. And I was on the committee that hired him, and he was absolutely perfect in the interview. He had memorized the college mission statement, word for word. Then one day he said to me, I think we need a website. And I said, well, I did a little one last week and I could do it. So naively, of course. And that became like a multi-year project for me and a number of people. And then it turned out we really soured on him, and he really was not doing a good job. And so the particular difficulty is how one feels when someone dies and they don't like them, you know, and when they're kind of poisoned to an institution. So then how do you feel? And so, and I was, as other people were talking, I was thinking about, well, what was it that he did so badly at? And I can't even remember that, which is probably positive. So anyway, I guess in the end, I have a lot of fond memories for him, the way he led us into the future. So that's what I'm going to remember.
Laurie?
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. I don't know anyone who personally who has passed from COVID, so I went to the site and chose a man by the name of Aruka Juma, and he was his last name was the name of his tribe. He was his people in Brazil, and he was in his late 80s or early 90s when he died of COVID-19. And interestingly enough, Aruka Juma saw his Amazon, he's from the Amazon area of Brazil, and he saw his tribe dwindle to just a handful of individuals during his lifetime. So in the 18th century, there were 1,700 of them, but disease and successive massacres by rubber tappers, loggers, and miners ravaged his people. In 1943, there was an estimated 100 remaining. And then there was another large massacre in 1964, leaving only 6 of them, including Aruka. And then in 1999, his brother-in-law passed away. He was also took the name of his tribe, so he was Mr. Juma as well. And he, like many of the indigenous people of Brazil, used this surname. But anyway, so when he died, Aruka became the last surviving Juma male. And so with that, the tribe's extinction was assured. And he died, Mr. Juma, Aruka Juma, died on February 17th in a hospital in Porto Velho, the capital of Rondônia state. And he was believed to be between 86 and 90. And he had a grandson. I don't know why he wasn't part of the tribe, but anyway, apparently he wasn't. And he said that the cause was COVID-19. Aruka Juma.
Thank you. Nancy? Nancy? Yeah.
I don't know anyone personally that died from the COVID, but I found someone on the website. His name is Raymond Cachetier. No, you know him. He's quite famous photographer, iconic new wave photographer. He went to the Vietnam War during 1954, and took photos of the people and landscape in Vietnam, Laos, and also Cambodia. And he has an exhibition of his work, Faces of Vietnam, at museums and universities across the United States. At the age of 101.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. If not because of
Wow.
COVID, I think he will live longer. Yeah.
Say the
And
name.
there's
one
a lot of,
more
yeah, Raymond Couture, Raymond Coucheter, French photographer.
Thank you. Nicole?
Thank you for this opportunity. It was hard to know which to choose. I've been surrounded by death over the past year, and many people have got long-term COVID. So what I actually did was I went onto the National Health Service website to honour all the people in service who have died, and I chose a name from there. And the person's name is Paul Gaithwaite. He was a mental health nurse, and he was 53, had worked for Northwest Boroughs Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust for 22 years, most recently as a senior nurse supporting older people with mental health conditions in St Helens. He leaves behind a husband, David, whom he had been with for 22 years and married 3 years ago. A friend, Nikki Mercer, said, "In all my career, I don't think I've ever worked with a more dedicated nurse. Paul gave so much of himself, and his cheeky sense of humour made him very popular with patients. They asked for him by name as their care coordinator." So I was deeply moved by that.
Thank you, Nicole. Rosemarie?
Hi. So I also didn't know anybody who personally passed away from COVID. And I chose somebody from the New York Times website. And this is Leo Goodman. And his obit says that he transformed sociology with statistics. He died at 92. He developed tools for researchers to analyze categorical data, revolutionizing the study of poverty, income inequality, and social mobility. Until he began his work on statistics in the early 50s, researchers in the social sciences had a problem. It was easy to quantify the relationship between, anyway, it's a little technical here, but let me finish the sentence because it does. It was easy enough to quantify the relationship between two numerical measurements, say how height correlates to income level, but what about non-numerical categories like race and occupation? So this was pretty revolutionary. So it was a goldmine for sociologists, and Professor Goodman gave them the tools to really dig into this. He arrived at the University of Chicago in 1950 at 22 as an assistant professor of sociology and statistics, and almost immediately he began churning out just landmark papers with these two areas of sociology and statistics. He retired at age 89 and yeah, died at 92 of COVID. That's Leo Goodman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We didn't hear from Nelda.
Nelda, I'm so sorry I missed you.
That's all right.
Your name's not coming up on the list here. Oh, Nelda's iPhone, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Nelda.
Thank you. I didn't know of anyone until I went to this website who had died of COVID, and I feel like I know this young man. I decided to pick someone by my birth last name, Sanchez, and I came across Israel Saus from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He died yesterday, a year ago, at the age of 22. Like so many of us, he lived a simple life. He was a manager of a convenience store and gas station in Tulsa, Oklahoma. just a year before his death, he had married his sweetheart. She was pregnant at the time. So a couple of weeks after their first year wedding anniversary last year, she gave birth and named the baby Hosea. And Israel just couldn't wait to see his first child, the baby boy, and was so excited about it that he took a picture as soon as the baby was born. I'm going to show it to you. You can see it, holding him. And 3 weeks later, he died. So his wife's burden, I imagine, challenge at this point is heavy. This baby's now a year old. She didn't get to celebrate her second wedding anniversary, and the child, now age 1, never got to meet his dad except in those first few weeks. So everyone thought of him as a lovely, gentle, well-mannered, kind young man. So we've lost a good man, a good dad, a good husband.
Have I forgotten anyone else? In offering incense, observing silence, and reading the names of those we have lost in the last year, we extend compassionate care to the hundreds of thousands of people we have not been able to name, and all those they loved. And please feel free to add more names now if you wish. And we extend compassionate care to all who are gravely ill, lacking basic necessities, or suffering violence in the world in thought, word, or deed. May they be serene through all their suffering, and may they, together with all beings, realize the awakened way. Let's say the Four Noble Truths. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Before we end, I left my phone with a message that I wanted to share with you also in the other room. Joan, is it possible that you would be willing to speak the message that you had shared with me?
Yes, I'll do it extemporaneously. There are a group of council members that have been looking at how to support new people to Appamada, and we've decided that the question we wanted to ask would be good for all of Appamada. And so we are asking, I hope you can still hear me. Can you hear me now? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, we are asking for you to think about how Appamada can support you. And answer that question by going to the website, and at the bottom left-hand corner, the very bottom of every single page are the words "Contact me." And if you click on that, you can enter in your information, and for the subject, put something like Appamata support or something, and put how Appamata could support you. And we just want to see if there are ways that we could address things that are needed by you. If we have a number of offerings and they just may not be the offerings that are what you need or at the times. And so any information that we could have, we'd really appreciate it. We're going to be doing this through the month of March. So take a little time and do that.
Thank you, Joan. Okay, let's close. I would like to do 9 bows for the end of this ceremony, and I hope you will join me in any way that works for you.